Welcome to Dreadful Digest, where we look at your favorite horror novels and rip apart their adaptations. I'm one of your hosts, Tessa Nelson.
I am the other host, Michael Estrada.
And I'm your co-host, Sam.
And today we're looking at My Best Friend's Exorcism, a 2016 horror novel written by Grady Hendrix. Were you guys familiar with this book at all? No.
I was.
Were.
Well, sort of. I don't know how much to talk about my personal background, but when we were at Blumhouse, I remember they sent I think they sent a PR package when the movie came out.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I'd heard of it, but I remember passing by this nice little Amazon PR package and being like, oh, that looks kind of cute. And that's the first time I ever heard of it. So I was loosely familiar with it and the premise just because of that. But I hadn't heard of it organically in other circles.
Fair enough. I had heard of the book because it's popular on Book Talk. Horror, the horror community is familiar with Grady Hendrix. He is a very popular author among horror fans. So I've read a couple of his books. I've read Horror Store. I've read Final Girl Support Group.
Oh, did he write that one?
Yeah.
Oh.
That sounds funny.
It does.
Oh.
It does sound funny, doesn't it?
It does.
I've heard of that one. I hadn't read that one.
I had high hopes. You'll see. I'm not the biggest fan of Grady Hendrix. But yeah, so we're going to be looking at the book and comparing it to the movie, which was directed by Damon.
Should
I mention it right now? Should I mention it right now?
It's up to you. It's a great reveal, but
yeah, why not?
Do it up front.
I'm scared. Sure. Maybe not. Okay. How about you give us a synopsis first of this story before we dive into the research?
So I'll summarize the book. Well, I guess you both read it more recently than I did, but I'm gonna pull up my little notes. Okay, so the book starts when Abby, I believe she's at work, and then she gets she sees on the news that the exorcist has died, and we don't know who the exorcist is, but we know that it's somebody from her past. And it sends us into a flashback of how she meets her best friend, Gretchen, when they're little girls growing up in South Carolina.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it was Virginia at one point when I was reading. But yeah, in South Carolina, they grew up together. They, get some other friends along the way, like Margaret and Glee. Yes, her name is Glee. When I was reading it, I was like, Glee?
Dude. I couldn't read it. That's not a normal name.
Well, it made me think to myself, am I wrong about this? Is this a normal name?
No.
Why have I never heard of the name Glee? But anyway.
Besides the hit TV show from Fox.
No, exactly. I was like, Glee. Ryan Murphy? Anyway.
If he produced this, that would be interesting.
You're saying if you produced the movie?
This seems very much Ryan Murphy.
You would think, actually. That's a really good... Sorry, I should turn off my phone notifications. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, so then they get more friends, Margaret, Glee. They're all this little quad girl group, and then they're in high school, a private Christian school. And kind of one crazy night gone wrong. They all do acid, but it doesn't work. But at one point in the night, Gretchen, that's Abby, our protagonist's best friend, goes missing. When Abby finally finds Gretchen again, she's completely different. And over the next days and weeks, Gretchen kind of evolves from being really depressed and crying and not herself and just poor hygiene to overnight one day she just gets better in every way. She just she cuts her hair. It's super flattering. Everybody likes her again. Now she's the queen bee. And Abby comes to the conclusion first that her friend was sexually assaulted when she went missing. But that theory doesn't really take, which I do want to talk more about that when we talk about the book. But and then finally she comes to the conclusion after there's a school assembly with these people that exorcise demons. She's like, oh my God, my best friend was possessed when she was gone. And so then she calls on the people in the exorcism assembly to help her, and then she tries to exorcise her friend. Ultimately, the thing that pulls her friend out of being possessed and by the way, the demon that is possessing her friend is named Andros, and an owl is his symbol. So there's a lot of owls throughout the book. Ultimately, the thing that pulls her friend out of being possessed is basically the power of friendship. which we can
Not
talk more
basically,
about.
yeah.
It's literally like, I summon thee out of like all the memories that we like were introduced
E.T.
to.
Ugh.
E.T. Yeah, they love the movie E.T. So like, you know, all of the
Love it.
childhood things that we learned about how they became friends at the beginning of the novel are ultimately the thing that saved Gretchen during her exorcism. And later, Abby moves away. And you know, I'm missing a big part of it, but basically like, well, actually,
That's the gist. Yeah.
yeah. So, and then it ends with the two of them at the end of their life, and Gretchen is by Abby's side. Like after all that, they were still best friends, and that's pretty much the novel.
Yeah. So that's the novel written by Grady Hendrix. A little info about Hendrix here. He's written for Playboy.
What?
Huh?
Yeah. He's
What?
written for Playboy.
What do you mean by
magazine.
that?
Yeah. What do you
That-
mean written?
That is what
he posed?
that is all that Wiki said.
Huh.
Oh,
So that's all I could find in
okay.
the short time I did researching him.
Do you think he likes that or novels better?
Well, seeing as he's stuck with novels, I would kind of think he likes that a little bit more. But like, what do you even write in a Playboy magazine?
You
I guess
haven't
I've
read
ne-
a
I've
I've never
magazine?
looked at a Playboy magazine. Are there like articles?
I don't know.
I thought
Yes, no, that's like the joke. It's like, oh, I get Playboy for the articles. Like that's like the bit.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
Oh.
Okay.
You've never heard that?
No.
No, can't say that I am familiar with Playboy.
No, it's
I just
actually
assumed
I don't.
it was literally a bunch of like in movies where they do
Photos.
the like pull out, like fold out.
No,
pictures.
I mean, no, that is
Just a
part of it. But like,
magazine of that.
I mean, I've actually also never opened a Playboy magazine, but like, no, it's not Playboy, it's Esquire. I'm pretty sure. It's like that's what the joke is, where it's like, oh, I subscribe to Esquire for the news or the articles, and it's like, haha, that's funny.
Oh.
Like that's like a joke.
Okay. Well, now I'm more cultured, so thank you for that. Alrighty, so obviously this has a film adaptation, but Hendrix, his other book, Horror Store, which I actually pretty like. I pretty like it. I like it.
You pretty like it.
Pretty like it?
That came out wrong. I like it a little bit more than his other ones. That one is optioned for film adaptation. So
Is it? Wait,
so
by
on the
who?
lookout. I don't know.
Oh.
Sorry.
Hopefully this guy.
When I do my research, I probably should do a little bit more. But
No,
I didn't.
no.
And then the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires is another book.
So does he like stories about the South?
It seems so.
Probably was
Is he
He
from
loves
from
the
the
South?
South?
He loves horror.
I mean, that is interesting.
Interesting take.
Yeah.
So that one and the Final Girl Support Group are slated for TV adaptation.
I knew Final Girl Support
fun.
Group was.
Really?
Oh, well, I just like heard that.
Okay.
I think maybe
I-
I didn't know that.
Could I ask, did you say when these books were made? Like how recently were
They're
these?
recent. Like, he's a modern author.
Yeah, because it sounds like things are being made like right now and
Yeah.
it's blowing up right now. So these are like recently made books.
Well, also he's
mean-
popular on Book Talk, right? So like I feel like it's
Yeah.
mostly Well, that's not true. A lot of modern authors, I feel like, are popular on Book Talk. A lot of classics are too, though. So it's not universal.
Yeah, I think Horror Store. That's like the one that really got him popular. And that's been out since 2014. So
Oh.
Okay.
So in the 2010s, I would feel like he kind of blew up, I would say.
All right.
Alrighty. So that's what I have for the book. There's not a lot of info out there right
Okay.
now. The Wikipedia is very slim pickings. But for the movie, obviously came out in 2022 and directed by Damon Thomas, who was Kim Kardashian's first husband.
I didn't know
It
that.
gets crazier.
Yeah.
It
You-
gets crazier.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So Damon Thomas is a music producer. No Wikipedia page about him.
What?
Just like the group he's worked with.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
is some great names, by
Yeah.
the way.
Wait,
He-
so you know about this already. Okay, why
Yeah.
am I the only person that doesn't know this?
We found this out after we
Oh,
watched the movie.
okay, got
He
it.
gave me the idea to look up more about the directors.
Oh,
Duh. Okay.
okay.
Oh, boy, what a doozy we found right at the back.
Yeah, right out the gate. So he's worked with a lot of famous musicians. Pink,
hmm
Chris Brown, R. Kelly.
Do you have like? Sorry, I was gonna say, do you have a good one? But I don't have an issue with Pink, so I don't
No,
want to say
Pink's
that.
great.
Pink's
Yeah,
fine.
no, I don't
I
want
just
to.
wanted to
Pink
lead
was the
into that.
setup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why did we start? Okay, sure. I guess we shouldn't have started with R. Kelly. There's not really a right way to do that.
No.
Anybody else, basically.
He has a list. Those were the ones I put down.
Oh, those are the ones that stood out.
Yeah,
Okay, got
this one's the ones I felt were worth
we needed to talk
mentioning.
about. Got it. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He played football.
In his
Played
life,
17 games in the NFL.
He played football
I
with
was
his friends.
getting to it.
He played two-hand touch with his boys back in
He
college.
played flag football once in me.
Like,
Wait,
me
you say-
too. Okay.
So he
Like,
played in the NFL? Is that what
Yeah.
you said?
Played 17 games.
What?
Yeah, this guy's career is crazy. He also produced music for Pitch Perfect and Pitch Perfect 2.
wait.
Dude.
I kind of like Pitch Perfect.
It's pretty iconic.
Yeah.
I like
The
Pitch
first
Perfect.
one is. The second one,
I remember watching
girl's
that
annoying,
when I
but-
was like in 6th grade because all the cool people were watching Pitch Perfect.
Oh my god, yeah.
And I was,
I was
like,
so annoyed.
me too. But then I watched it and I was like, now I'm one of the cool people.
Oh my god. So that's a little bit about Damon Thomas.
Mhm.
What a king.
He's got a crazy life.
That's wild.
Looking at one of the stars, we got Elsie Fisher.
I did want to ask, like, categorizing, like, does 8th grade count as a horror movie?
I
think it
I've
does.
seen it once. You think so?
I've seen it like 3 times.
Wow.
Also, Elsie Fisher went to, and I believe this is public information, so I don't think I'm like
Doxing Elsie.
I was gonna say, like, if this is not public information, then like delete this. But she went to TO High School, which was my rival high school. And so, yeah, so like I haven't seen her in public, but I had like friends who like kind of knew of her. I think she was
She's younger than us, right?
yeah.
Wait, T.O. High School? You mean Thousand Oaks?
Yeah.
Oaks Christian?
No,
Oh.
Thousand Oaks
Oh,
High
right.
School.
Okay.
Like Thousand Oaks High School.
Okay.
So
So I know
she
a
was
lot
like,
of people, famous people went to Oaks Christian. So
Well,
I would be surprised.
I don't want to comment on that.
Oh, there's tea
That's
amongst
off the
the high
record.
schools.
I would. Yes, high school rivalry continued into my 20s. No, but
That's crazy.
no, but I believe that she was like in drama there, and then Bo Burnham was like that one, and that's how she
Wild.
got 8th grade. I could be wrong about this, but that's why I was asking: does this person really love horror? Because
I don't know.
consider it to be a little horrifying sometimes. So Elsie Fisher. Okay, I was just double checking this. I think they use they them.
Okay.
I might
I'll
be
make
wrong
note of
about
that.
that. That's just what their letterbox profile uses. So
Okay.
I think.
It's good to know. Okay, moving on
Mhm.
because I did not write down any of the other actors because who cares?
Jesus Christ.
Well, actually, though, I think I could be wrong, but I think a lot of them are debuts. No, so
It seemed
it's not like
like
they
it.
have other
Tracks.
credits. Whoa,
Damn.
whoa, whoa!
Okay, now you're getting on my
Wait.
level.
Okay,
I mean-
hang on. I just want to double check if they do have other credits. Go on, though. Go on.
Little IMDb goof. This is how
Oh?
they describe it on IMDb. It's an IMDb goof.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
okay.
Alright.
When they're wrong about something, they call it a goof.
Yeah, something in the movie that they get wrong.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Wally
Wallace.
Whoa.
Go for it.
They say Wally in here. Is it
Oh.
Wallace?
Yeah.
Okay.
They
oh,
say
yeah, the
Wally.
guy? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
his
is it
nickname?
Wally in the movie? It's Wallace for sure.
It's
in the
Wallace
books.
in the book.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure they say Wallace.
Us not knowing.
Okay. Well, we're professionals here. We know
Mhm.
this. Okay, so Wallace refers to Margaret as his fuck bae. The movie is set in 1988. Almost.
Wait,
Finish it.
wait.
The movie is set in 1988, almost 20 years before the first recorded use of the word bae.
I noticed that. Do you
Yeah,
want
I think we both pointed it out.
Yeah, I pointed it out, and it's my maybe one note.
I took it from you. I'm so sorry.
It's my one note that I
You
had.
just typed fuck
You know
bae.
what?
I just typed out "fuck bae" in quotes.
That's the only note that you
Yeah,
have.
it just says "fuck bae"
know,
in quotes.
I feel the need to defend some of the talent. Amaya Miller, the one who plays Gretchen, I thought she did good. And she also is in Lights Out. I don't know if she's the main
Oh,
character.
really?
Yeah, that's what I just found out when I'm like
That's the one
re-looking
that
stuff live.
they like made a movie off of a little short that got
Yeah.
popular. Or
Yeah, I
literally
think
She was
so.
great.
turning
She's not the
into
main
this.
character, I don't think, but she is in it. And I actually, when watching this, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if I saw her pop up in other places, I think. I don't know how old she is now. This movie came out in what, 2022? Okay. So,
Oh,
2
shit,
years ago.
okay.
Yeah, no, I liked her. I think the best.
I
out
thought
of
she
the
was,
actors.
I was like,
I
And-
liked the lemon.
Yes,
butter.
yes.
The pasta.
I had
Christian,
thoughts
He's
about
the
that.
best.
he's so good.
Yeah.
Who did you? He said he looked like Zac
Oh,
Efron.
like current day Zac Efron in like Iron Claw. He looks a lot like him.
Oh.
Exactly. Okay.
Actually, I see that.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry, we completely derailed that.
No, we got through all the research that I did.
Wait, what?
I literally added these two Rotten Tomatoes things because I was like desperate for anything.
Yeah.
So here are some Rotten Tomatoes reviews.
Oh, new segment alert.
segment.
Woo! New segment
I was
alert.
gonna say I could also pull up Letterboxd ones. I'm sure those would be
That would be
entertaining.
brilliant. Yeah.
But go ahead.
Roos S, Roos, and then last name S.
Shout out Roos.
Roos. Okay.
Thank you.
Bruce or Roos?
Roos.
Roos?
Bruce, like
Yeah.
rooster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
Shout out Roos, big fan.
They gave it 2 stars. They said
Okay.
it could have been a lot better, but it wasn't.
Oh,
Now reading that this was a book made into a movie surprised me because the movie lacked so much story. The movie flips between comedy and horror continuously, making it difficult to get into. Anytime the horror could be scary, the humor takes it away, and the humor isn't consistent enough, at least for me, to class it as a comedy.
Dude.
interesting.
Roos?
Maybe they should never watch horror comedies. Maybe that's their problem.
Yeah, I mean that is possible because, like, you know, that's a genre.
Mhm.
So.
And then Liliana P says they gave it 2.5 stars.
Shout out Liliana.
Not funny and cheap. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, though.
Oh, congrats.
Okay.
Thank you, Liliana.
Wow.
Wow.
And that was the research I had.
Okay.
So I know you have a lot to say, Sam.
I
about
do. Well, actually,
this.
can I read a review?
Oh, go for it.
Because I just found a review on Letterboxd who is stealing our entire podcast thunder.
How
because
dare you.
they-
Ban them.
Well, it's so they gave
Ban them
they gave the
from
film
what? From our
Call
podcast.
Letterboxd now and ban them.
they gave the film half a star.
Whoa.
Their username is Dr. Slug, so shout out Dr. Slug.
Shout out Dr. Slug.
They said
Kidler.
I'm bringing this one up because they talk about the book first. They say if you read Grady Hendrix' My Best Friend's Exorcism, don't bother watching this movie because it is like they took the compelling story, strong friendship, perfectly timed comedy, skin crawling horror, and heartbreaking ending and said no thank you, I don't like good things, and made this abomination. There's no E.T. roller skating birthday party. Oh, well, now I'm getting into the plot. There's no E.T. roller skating birthday party, no rebuking by the power of Phil Collins, no I love you dearly but not queerly, which we will talk about. Brother Lemon was funny, but it's like they gave up writing him right before the exorcism was complete. And worst of all, I didn't believe one bit of Abby and Gretchen's friendship. That's an interesting review because
Ooh.
they obviously loved the book.
Yes.
And then didn't like the movie. It seems like a lot of people that didn't read the book found the movie a little underwhelming, but didn't like dislike it, I think, based on the reviews that you just read. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it seems like there weren't fans from anywhere.
I can't find like a 5-star review, but the
I feel like there weren't fans in the production of the movie, to be honest with you. It's like,
Perhaps.
The
Perhaps.
only 4-star review I could find that with somebody that liked it is by Ali Bug. Shout out Ali Bug on Letterboxd.
Shout out Ali Bug.
And Ali said, the power of Boy George compels you. Okay, first of all, slay. I think that speaks to what people probably liked about it. It's the campier parts and the parts that do lead into the comedy, probably. I think are the things that people that like this book and like this movie enjoyed. I would think it would be the way that it is very... I mean, when I read the book, I described it sort of as baby's first horror. Like, I wouldn't classify it necessarily as like a horror novel, especially not based on what we talked about in our last episode and, you know, the things we have coming up. It's definitely not as shocking.
Mhm.
But for people who that's not your thing, you might like it. And it seems like based on the reviews and like the audience that did kind of gravitate towards it, it's not the horror community. It's more so people that are on the outskirts. Not to generalize, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, I feel like the only people that like know about this are in like the book talk community or whatever. But that's because of his other books that are popular.
Right.
Like if you're reading his other stuff and you like his other stuff, then maybe you'll find this and like it. And also the cover is really cool. Like the new cover,
Yes.
it's really poppy, and I've definitely seen it at Barnes and Noble, and I was like, maybe
Oh,
I should
yeah.
read that.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder like why this one a little bit. Like what you're saying, if like a lot of his other novels are really popular in book talk, like it makes me wonder why this one was adapted necessarily because I haven't heard about it. So I don't
have a
know.
Theory.
You do.
80s nostalgia was popular with it and Stranger Things, although
That's
it's
true.
kind of dying off now.
It is.
And these big movie studios want PG horror.
PG horror.
Unfortunately, it's kind of that's how you make money. But this is going on a streamer, so I
Right,
don't
this
know.
one didn't have
I
a
don't know.
theatrical release at all, right?
I
This
mean,
one,
we were just talking about Five Nights at Freddy's being like a big thing. I think you're right. PG horror is kind of like
Yeah,
well,
There's
it's
a
like
market
high
for it.
commercial value is,
Yeah.
especially for getting people to theaters. They, I assume, obviously don't work for a horror company, but I would assume that they want accessible audiences and renewable audiences, and younger horror fans are definitely horror fans. I'm putting that in quotes because, like I said, I would consider this babies first, not we're not quite into middle school yet, we need to graduate a little bit in
I don't
terms
know.
of
Well, we're talking about the book or the movie.
both. For me at least, I thought that neither of them really were, like, honestly, if it wasn't for the paranormal part, I would consider this to be like a thriller
There's some
comedy.
dark stuff in the book.
Yeah, because in the book, it's not even really aimed towards, which is what I found the book very confusing.
Really?
Because it seems like I almost want to fully agree with you that it is like baby's first horror,
Mhm.
except that there's like rape. There's like rape accusations.
Yeah.
There's like some pretty gruesome like violence, at least in the book. Like at least for the rest of what it is, there seems to be like sometimes they'll lean really hard into like the body horror and stuff. Feels like a little bit more than you would expect for like a horror
Okay,
book
I'll
aimed
give
at
you that.
kids. But that's why
I'll
the
give you
rest of
that.
it seems like it should be aimed at kids. But then it'll randomly kind of get like a little bit what I would consider over the line, at least for what I would expect.
like
for that
Glee
genre.
almost killing herself.
Yeah.
Oh, that one, yes.
Gretchen's like period that's like nonstop.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
about that.
Wait, I don't even remember that.
Yeah, she's like it's like a plot.
Oh,
point.
that's right. That's
Like
right.
at the
Actually,
very
I do
beginning.
remember that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
like a lot of like more adult stuff in the book, but then they take that away from the movie.
Also, the other thing
Right.
you mentioned about like 80s nostalgia, that's like not in the movie almost at all. I feel like there's
Well,
barely
it's
anything.
not. No,
The
it is
clothes.
there,
The
but it's
clothes?
not how. It's not exactly the same as other 80s nostalgia pieces. I think
Yeah.
it's there. I think.
Whereas the book definitely is. They
Oh,
just
the-
won't stop
yes.
talking about the 80s. It's
Oh, yeah.
everywhere.
But it's just different in the. For me personally, how it was translated was just not what I had in my head at
Hmm.
all.
Okay.
Not to speak to the quality of either, but literally just like even the Lemon brother, the exorcist himself,
Mm.
I thought the casting for I thought, the like shredded one, that's who I thought was gonna be
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brother Lemon, and then when it wasn't, I was like, and that's kind of how
He's
the
a
whole
scrawny guy. Get him on my
Yes.
screen.
yes, and like that's what. Wait.
You agreed. That's all I needed.
But like when I was watching it, I was like, that's how the movie felt. It was like, yeah, wait. You know what I mean? Where I was like looking at it and I was like, wait, that's not, I thought that we agreed about this and we obviously did not agree about this. Which is fine. I didn't make it, but like that's as an individual viewer, that's how I
Yeah.
felt.
Yeah. Speaking of casting,
Okay.
Elsie Fisher obviously came off of 8th grade.
Let's
fame.
go.
Shout out Bo Burnham.
Shout out Bo Burnham. No,
Definitely
honestly, come on the
needs
pod.
Yeah, they took a different route with this character in terms of like looks, because in the book it's very pointed that Abby is like very concerned with like her hair is like typical like styled 80s
Mhm.
blonde big. They do mention like the makeup stuff in the movie, but I feel like I'm imagining her like caked, like eyeshadow,
Yes.
like crazy colors, 80s.
Yes.
And they did not lean into it enough for Elsie's version. I feel like.
Yes, I see that. Well, because it was so important. The insecurities were such an important thing, and that's also part of it. Is that like, for me, I felt like reading the book. I'm actually curious what you think about this.
Okay, what about what?
I feel like the Pedro Pascal meme where it's like, you should know this too.
Yeah.
But for me, the book was an interesting experience as a reader because I felt like so much of it was very obviously trying to lean into adolescent girlhood as like, when we're talking about like the sexual assault and when we're talking about like the period and like her insecurities and like makeup, like so many of the points of the possession seem to be around those aspects, but not exactly accurately. A little, to me, campy. And then in the movie, some of those elements just aren't there at all, which is kind of weird. It's just like they're just not there.
Explain what you mean by campy.
Like a little over exaggerated. I guess it's like you're not experiencing what the girls are through the eyes of the girls. It's like there, at least for me, it was like there's a layer of, maybe this is just because I'm older than the age that they are, but there's like a layer of separation where you're not like, oh, I understand why they feel that way. I understand why they're going through that. You're looking at it more like these adolescent girls are going through these like teenage problems. And like, there's not like this to our visual viewers who are watching this, enjoy my hand gestures, where you're like, you understand the POV. I mean, if we're comparing and contrasting, which we're not, but you know, in Misery, like we were able to get into the head and like the eyes of Paul and Annie, and you, even if you don't understand what's going on with them, you could. With these, I felt more like I was watching the girls, and I was just kind of watching them go through girlhood and not really. That's how I should have said this entire thing. I felt like I was watching girls go through very stereotypical girl things with a horror lens over it, and not experiencing a horror story.
That's one of the issues I have with Hendrix's writing is instead of using dialogue to like define these characters' traits, he just says the traits. Oh, Abby's the funny one, but we don't get any jokes from her. We don't get any humor. He wasn't showing these characters interacting enough where I'm like, oh, I can see that she's this way and Gretchen's this way.
I know what you mean. I get what you're saying about the book too, because like there will be time, because all the girls, again, maybe because I'm listening through an audiobook and not actually reading it, they all kind of feel like the same when they're talking. They all kind of feel the same, but then later, because like most of the book is from Abby's perspective, I think. Usually, she'll be the one thinking. We're in her head sometimes. She'll just say something like, "Oh, what a weird thing for Glee to do. Normally, she always does this."
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, when did she do that?
Well, you know,
I didn't
the only
see her.
exception to that is Margaret. I think Margaret did have a different voice.
She does.
Margaret
Margaret
is
out.
just cussing out her friends. She has a lot to say to her friends. Her friends. I did think she had a very distinct voice, and I also thought that for me, she had the best characterization. I think. I thought.
Yeah, I would agree.
Certainly over Glee. Certainly. For me, Glee was pretty indistinguishable in the books. To Hendrix's credit, Margaret, I can see her in my mind. That's why when I watched the movie, it was another moment for me where I was like, this is not the Margaret that I knew in the books, like, at all. At least, but maybe that's me projecting people I've met to Margaret and giving her more of a life than she really had.
Because she was like, when they first mentioned Margaret, she's like a mean girl amongst the elementary school.
She like steals Abby's birthday.
Yeah.
Huge deal.
Yeah. And I kind of liked that later on they become friends. So I was like, cool. And we didn't even have to harp on it. It was like, oh, they're friends later on.
And
Who
that
cares?
kind of thing happens. Like that was totally believable to me because it's like, yeah, like I have friendships like that where it's like years ago, completely different dynamic than years now. So it's like, that was cool.
Yeah. I like
that's missing from the movie. Well, but also in the movie, all of their all of their childhood is missing, which is a pretty big creative decision in terms of the overall core of the story. But you know, we don't have to talk about that right now.
Because the movie kind of removes what like the thing we're talking about, like the characterization between like interaction. If there is any, it all happens like when they're young. That's like where the bulk of that stuff happens.
That's true.
In the movie, it's just like, nope, there's none of it.
Right.
None of their characters.
We're kind of just dropped into high school. Which is, and also I think, you know, I don't know, maybe Tessa, you know the ages, or you have the computer in front of you with the ages of the actors, but I did feel like they were younger. I didn't feel like these were 20-somethings playing teenagers. It definitely felt like these were teenagers.
Oh, the actresses, you mean?
Yeah, in the movie.
Yeah,
the teenagers were playing teenagers, and you can definitely feel that. That's really leading to that adolescence and those the emphasis on teenage more than any other aspects that I felt from the book translated to the movie.
Elsie Fisher is 21 right now.
Elsie's 21.
They were probably 19, 20 when they were doing this.
That makes sense.
So they all look, the whole
older
cast
now.
looks young.
Oh,
young
okay.
enough to like play high school.
Okay, yeah.
Is that what you were saying?
Yes, yeah, exactly. But like that being very clear to me more so than other pieces. Like for me, the things that I really liked about the book that were not present in the film were the heavy emphasis on Southern culture. And also, this was in the movie, but it wasn't how I envisioned it. The the private Christian school vibe.
Yeah.
It was there. Like, I'm not going to say it wasn't, of course, but I envisioned it very differently in the books than it actually played out. I don't know.
Yeah, it was more of like in the background. Oh, there's some nuns.
Yeah,
We'll just put
there's
some
like
nuns
there's
in
a
here.
nun they walk
Yeah.
by, and it's
Right.
like kind of it doesn't feel
Like the waspiness of what the original story had was played down a lot.
Like they just had to include it. Like they
Right.
didn't really want to utilize it.
It
they
was
just
the
had
background.
to.
Yeah, it was the setting, but it didn't really play in. Whereas I think, and a really good moment for me for this is when the Lemon brother and Abby are exercising Gretchen, and in the book he goes, "Are you baptized?" And she goes, "No," but in reality she can't remember if she's baptized. In the movie she goes, "No, I'm Jewish," and I thought that was a really
Really?
Did
yes.
she say that? I don't
Yeah, I
remember
remember
that.
She
that.
says, "No, I'm Jewish," and I think it's supposed to be like a funny beat because it's just like this awkward disconnect between these two characters. He's like super Christian, exercising, and she's like not part of that world. But that was ineffective for me because I think in the book, Abby's disconnect with the Christian environment is important, and in the movie, it's so much of an afterthought, or it's like maybe afterthought's the wrong way to say it, but it's so not prominent in comparison to how it was in the book that she has a completely different religion the entire time, and you would never know.
I feel like you have the most to say about
That's
this
just because
one.
I took so many notes. I don't understand why they changed it from Father Morgan to Brother Morgan.
Oh, I did
Oh,
not
they
notice
did.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. They did.
I don't know why they did that. I don't know if that was because they thought it was weird that one of the students was crushing on Father,
But they weren't.
but Fleabag. So
Yeah, in the movie, she didn't have a crush. Abby had a
right.
crush.
Oh, and this is
That's
have
a
a
They
big
completely
change.
This is the
get-
big
Big
change.
change.
This is the
big change
the
alert.
very dearly but never queerly change. Because there is this push and pull. When I was watching My Best Friend's Exorcism, when I was reading My Best Friend's Exorcism, I was thinking Jennifer's Body. When I was watching My Best Friend's Exorcism, I was not. And I think that's because in the book, there is this sort of like questionable relationship. It seems like people around them are kind of questioning Abby and Gretchen's relationship dynamic.
Oh, very much so.
In the movie, that is completely eliminated, and they actually have an explicitly queer character.
Yeah.
And completely change Glee's whole plot line.
Mm.
Which
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. It's a very swift creative decision. I thought that what was in the book was more accurate to the time. But
Mhm.
Yes.
I'm not really qualified to speak on that. I don't know.
Maybe they just didn't want to deal with it. Like in a modern movie, they wouldn't be like, let's not just have this. Maybe this isn't the place to have this discussion in this
Right.
like kind of quirky comedy, like
Comedy in loose terms.
yeah, like comedy horror-esque. Maybe let's not dive into that. Like
Right.
open up that can of worms here, like a student having a relationship with a a father,
Oh, well, that, but also like
an
even
older
just-
teacher at all.
Yes. I mean, that, but also even just like the two best friends, like, is Abby in love with Gretchen? Or
That's
like,
what I thought
Oh,
when
yeah.
I was reading the book.
like,
Yeah. Same.
I wasn't sure,
Okay.
but I didn't really need that to be answered personally because I was just like, I feel like it's adolescent teenage years. There are blurred lines with things like that. Like, that's okay. That's a focus of the book, is that blurred line. And then it's completely gone in the movie because Abby is given the plotline of being in love with the priest or Brother Morgan. Which also there's an insane line. Do you know the line when Gretchen is like about to throw her in the dunk tank and she's like, do you know what I'm talking about?
I
I don't even
remember
want to
the
say it.
I think I do remember.
Where she's like, Brother Morgan, like, you are cute. That's probably why Abby like rubs her
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I forgot she says that.
which I
That's
have
insane.
never heard in my life.
Must be an 80s
And
thing.
it's not in the book.
It's like fuck babe.
Yeah.
It must be an 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly liked the idea of like maybe Abby's into Gretchen, maybe Abby's not.
hmm
Um,
It's that Jennifer Bodies thing where it's like,
exactly.
is it queer? Is it not? In the book, it's so leaned into that they have their cute little friendship saying, like when they're saying they love each other, they're like, I love you. I think it's very dearly, but never queerly. Or no, dearly, but no, it's dearly, but never queerly. It's DBNQ. And then in the movie, do you remember what they said?
It was. I remember the acronym. It was
Okay.
Lilas. 'Cause we thought it sounded like a cool
Love
name.
you like a sister.
Yes.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And so they literally
God.
completely eliminate that whole thing
Yeah, they get rid of it
and
entirely.
give it to Glee.
Mhm.
Yeah. I have a lot of issues with like Glee's thing. Because it's just like they wanted to make this very like clean. Like, oh, we can't have this character considering suicide. Let's just have her crying in a bathroom.
Well, also like as
And
somebody
then
with
choke on peanuts.
I was
or
gonna say,
whatever.
as somebody with a
Choke on
peanut
peanuts.
allergy, I hate it.
Really, you're over that trope.
I hate it.
Sick of people dying from peanuts.
No, I
You
just
must
thought
be
it was.
against Hereditary then.
No, actually, I like it in Hereditary. No, it's just that in this particular context, I thought it was weird because we have in comparison to the source material, we have such a complicated thing, I guess, with the student being in love with the teacher thing. And then in the movie, it's just like, oh, she ate a peanut, and I'm just like, well, why did you do that? Like, I think that like, like, why did
Just,
you?
like, grow
No,
up
like,
and
and
don't
I
eat peanuts.
genuinely asking like creatives why, because I don't see the reason.
Yeah.
I thought that the other conflict was a lot more, and I guess this is what I was trying to say earlier about the friendship. The reasons for our viewers at home, it's that they took the questionable queer plotline, shoved it into the background, and then made it explicit. You know what I mean? So it's like they were sort
For
of
someone else.
Yes, it was like they were sort of pushing it to the side, but also like they were like, no, it is a priority. You know what I mean? It's
Very odd.
right. It's a very interesting creative decision that I don't personally understand. I would love to hear the people that work on its perspective because I don't know why they did that.
It was funny because not only do they make it explicit, they also introduce a whole nother aspect to Glee's character to specifically undercut it. Because Glee was not allergic to peanuts in the books, so they introduced this thing. So that way, when they do the thing that Glee, when literally one scene, she like is like, "Oh, I'm in love with you," whatever, and she gets rejected.
Yeah.
And then they immediately go, and also she's dying from peanut allergy.
Right.
They, like introduce it to make it explicit, and then undercut it with something else that isn't even in the book. It feels just odd.
Rushed.
I want to know what was going on. You know. Because
very interesting creative decision, I would say.
It's a bold creative decision, and it's like obviously there must be reasons for that, because otherwise I don't know why you wouldn't go with the very complicated things that are presented already.
Yeah, and you mentioned like maybe they don't want to tackle the teacher-student relationship, but like in the way I read it is that Glee was obsessed with this guy. He
No, he's her teacher.
notice.
Yeah, he doesn't care
He
about
did not
her.
notice.
Or like he cares about her the way that a teacher would care about a student. Like
Yeah.
not in an inappropriate relationship dynamic.
Yeah, and that Gretchen was the one that created the notes or
Right.
whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? That's so I'm reading it correctly.
Right. That's
Okay.
also
That seems to be what's implied. Yeah.
which I don't even, I mean, this is just my personal opinion, but I don't think younger audiences would be ill-equipped to handle that.
No.
No.
Because it's fake, you know, because it hammers in this adult teacher is not interested in this minor. Like that is never something that happens in the book, you know?
Yeah.
Same thing with sorry. Me being like, let me just talk about this one.
Go for it.
But the I thought it was interesting that the girls are not the ones that supply the group with acid. Why did the boyfriend supply the group with acid?
Was he there?
Why was he there at all?
Yeah.
Get this man out of here.
I didn't understand. I thought that was another interesting creative decision, because it's like in the book, there's this kind of like some of the girls are in cahoots about where they actually got the acid from, and there's this kind of like
Also, Margaret's brother is like a part that
Margaret's brother, yeah,
isn't in the
Yeah.
movie at all. Like completely just
Oh my
forgot
gosh.
until just now when you were saying about where they got the drugs from.
right. And there's like this
Okay.
whole like kind of thing about it, and then in the movie we're just like, oh, Wallace got it. How old is he again? Just
I don't have his age.
he's like 14 in the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he's older or younger. I'm not sure.
Well, if you wanted to hammer in that, oh, Glee's into Margaret, that would have made sense if she was tagging along to get these drugs.
Right. You could have
Because
incorporated
she-
certain book aspects.
She wouldn't have otherwise.
We were talking about this when we were watching the movie. It's weird that they also kept the like sexual assault subplot the same.
I agree.
Where Abby thinks it's Wallace. It was like, dude, he was there.
He was at the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know,
They put in a line later where someone, I think Abby is the one who says, yeah, but like we were lost in the woods for hours.
Right.
So Wallace left or something.
well, you know, and that's the other thing too about Wallace, and that the whole, you know, also like I don't think I said this with like trigger warning about talking about sexual assault. But you know, especially with the whole, it's a huge thing in the book. The whole,
Yeah.
like, did Gretchen get sexually assaulted? And it's so much so that I thought that she did, and that the book was going to continue to be a metaphor for that. And then when it turned out in the book to be canonically, no, she did not. She actually got possessed. And Abby is just wrong. I was surprised because I was so sure that we were supposed to be thinking that this is actually rape, and this whole thing is a metaphor for a minor being raped.
Yeah, they play it so straight in the book that
Yes.
I agreed. I thought we were like, oh, are we doing like a mid
Yes.
book shift? It's not actually a ghost thing.
Right.
This is all a metaphor. And then when we get to the exorcism, we're going to find out like, no, she's not possessed. Like,
Right.
you
that
read
was
it
just-
wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
but
she, for
but
real
no.
was.
Yeah, I was on the same page. But no, in fact, Abby thinks that the whole time. But yeah, Abby thinks that the whole time. And then Gretchen is like, no. And then we get to the exorcism, and there actually is a demon in Gretchen.
I think the scariest part in the book is Abby going to all these adults and they don't believe her.
Yeah.
Like, that is terrifying. And they, like, barely do it in the movie where she goes to
yeah.
the parents. And then that's kind of like, it's just dropped. But, like, this is, like, the inciting thing of, like, Abby has no one because the adults don't believe her. Her friends have left her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's truly alone. And I wish they would have hammered that in a little bit more in the movie.
Oh my gosh. This was the other thing. When we're talking about Southern culture, sorry, I'm going to say that again. When we're talking about Southern culture, one of the things that really stood out to me from the book is the slave game.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
God.
Yes.
That is not in the movie.
No, it is not. And in the context of the book, I believe it's in Abby's head is kind of like, okay, this is like super offensive. Like this is
Yeah, she does like a
she's like, this is weird as hell, but this is just tradition of what we do with this school. And it's like, that's an example to me of like, this is that was embedded into the plot. The political incorrectness of how this Christian school is operating in like South Carolina, like semi-rural South Carolina, right? Because I mean, Margaret has her own plantation, so obviously we are in a region of the world where that's still, you know, so. But I mean, and that winds up being a big thing in the book. Is that's the reason why Abby's insecurities come out with her makeup, and it's also just like the whole context as to why that happens is this really, I think, like Southern specific thing. I mean, I'm not speaking out of personal experience or fact. I'm just saying that was my understanding of the text in the book is that like because of their setting, this is a thing in their world, and then that leads to this. Completely gone in the movie.
Abby as an adult is like recognizing like, oh, this was screwed up what
Yes.
we used to do.
Yeah, and that's one of the appeals of the book is the lens of Abby looking back sort of and being able to identify the things in her childhood that were wrong and weird. And obviously that's completely gone in the movie. What instead happens is they're setting up for a fair, and that's it.
Yeah, they just have a fair.
They have a fair at the school, which they're allowed, but like, you know, it's just further evidence to me
Glad
of
you
like,
gave them approval.
yeah, well, they couldn't if I didn't say that.
I do also like again, because it kind of gets like pushed aside in the movie, like the whole Christian, like religious aspect, Southern aspect. One thing that I thought was really smart, at least I hope I'm not giving too much credit, I hope this is intentional, is that like throughout the book, we are presented with like, oh my God, there's so many devil worshippers and there's these cults. And
Right.
Like, the fear of like satanic stuff is ramping up. And yet, when someone is like, nobody believes that Gretchen got possessed. They're all so willing to believe in satanic cults and oh my God, this stuff is real and it's happening when it's possible to use that as a way to like control your kids and have like rules and stuff. But as soon as someone is for real possessed, everyone's like, no, that's stupid. Obviously that's not real. No one again.
Crazy. Why would you believe that?
That's so dumb. Clearly something else happened. Clearly that's not it. But like when it's advantageous to do it, when you can take advantage of the fear and like the cultural like panic, of course there's Satanists everywhere and it's all Satan. Oh my God.
The
and
cultural panic is a good way to put that.
Yeah.
Because I also think that was, I could be wrong because I don't know the history on this, but my understanding is that did reflect the general American culture. I mean, especially if we're getting out of, I mean, televangelists were roughly around this time period, right? Like that in general in the zeitgeist was more topical. I believe it's not in the movie at all.
Yes.
And Gretchen's parents are so caught up in it, and she like hates them. Like she grows such a hatred, and that's not at all in the movie. Like she's
No. Well, also the whole one of the scenes I really liked in the book is when Gretchen starts singing at her mom's like book club, and she like comes down the stairs and
and all
she's
the
singing.
That was
birds.
so creepy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, when she's like full on belting this like, what song is it? It's like
I don't remember.
it's like a
It's like a southern song, something
Yeah,
about
exactly.
Dixie, something like that.
yeah, it's like Way Down in Dixie or
Yeah,
something like
she-
that. She's singing like
Mhm.
you can in the book you can't separate the setting from what's going on, and
Yeah.
in the movie I don't even know what setting it is.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I don't even know if they mention where they are.
Yeah.
In the movie.
They don't have southern accents.
No.
No,
At all.
no, they do not. But I mean, they obviously weren't directed to. I think because so you know that must have been another deliberate creative decision.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a difference.
Speaking of songs,
Yeah.
in the book, their songs are very prevalent to the point where, like, listening to their audiobook, she could not obviously sing them,
No.
and so it was so bizarre.
She has to like just. I didn't know you also listen to the audiobook. I forgot. Yeah, she just has to like say it. She
Yeah.
just says the songs like very monotone. She can't sing it. But that, yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, I wish. I mean, I'm over the '80s nostalgia, but also we could have had some songs in there. We could have sprinkled them in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was like no songs in the movie. There were like maybe what? I think there were like two.
Yeah.
There was one in the beginning and one at the end. I think literally.
I think so.
That was it.
Mhm.
But yeah, the book it just throws it in your face. I think the chapters are all song names, if I'm misremembering.
So
I
It
believe
was
they're-
it was at the bare minimum if it was references. I'm not sure if it
Yeah.
was the titles of songs, but yes, it
Oh,
was.
you're right. It might not have been the
I
titles.
might. Well, I don't know if I'm remembering wrong,
Hmm.
but you're right.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was like clear 80s.
yeah, I want to get into because I think I disliked the book more than you guys,
Seems like it.
Yeah, probably.
as per usual.
Classic.
Classic.
This was becoming a chore reading this thing.
Gotta audiobook it.
I did. I
You
was.
did?
I had the book.
Oh, you had
and then
both.
I audiobooked it.
Oh,
So I
okay.
could follow along, but
You gotta put it on 2x speed.
it was at 1.5. I was
Wow.
I was hustling.
See, I didn't do that. It was fine for me. Sorry to hear that though.
Yeah, it felt like it just dragged on and on for me, and like it wasn't until the first 2/3 that Abby was like, "Oh, she's possessed," and it's like, how,
Yeah.
dude?
Well, that's
Like,
why I
don't
thought the whole
know.
thing was gonna be a metaphor for rape, and then when it wasn't, I was like, "What?" Like, I was like, "Wait, then why did it take this long to get to the paranormal?"
Exactly.
Yeah, it took forever.
The whole time she's like, "Are you okay? What's going on?" I'm like, "How do you not know what's going on by now?"
You would have known.
God.
Also, can I just say, I didn't like Abby at all in the book. She's like
Okay.
super obnoxious to
Yeah.
me. And I get I don't like when you have to use this excuse, but like they're teenagers. Of course they're the most annoying person you've ever seen. But like, I guess she's a teenager, so she constantly overreacts to like
there's-
everything.
Yeah, there's a way to do it correctly. Honestly, I liked Margaret in the books, and Margaret is a character who
Yeah, but
is
that's-
super.
Yeah.
She's explicitly not likable, but
She's not the main character.
well, that also. But like, you know, I think that there is a balance of
Mhm.
like, oh, well, they're teenagers, and like how to make that work. I don't remember being particularly struck by Abby's characterization in any direction.
You're
I
just
feel
kind
like I
of
would.
indifferent, like whatever.
That's how I felt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that how you felt?
No, I was annoyed with her.
Oh, so you both didn't like her.
I think mainly because I liked the fact that she had insecurities and
In the
all
book?
that.
That's good.
And that. What?
Wait.
I think she was relatable in that sense, but again, going back to how she's just described as the funny one when we never see that happen, I was like, you're saying like you're saying the same things, you keep asking questions, and that's all you're doing.
There's like one scene where I thought, okay, in the book, if I'm remembering right, it's when they like not when they first meet Glee, but Glee is like looking for something, her retainer in
Oh
the
yes,
trash.
in the trash. Yeah,
In
she
the
loses
trash.
her retainer.
Yeah.
And then Abby has this like moment of realization that like, oh my God, everything doesn't have to be bad.
Oh yeah.
I don't have to take everything so seriously and like be so annoyed at everything. I can just put a positive spin on
Yeah,
things.
right. She's like, I don't have to be poor. I could get a job. Like that's an actual
Yeah,
line
she
of it.
for
Like
real has
that's
that.
like
Yeah.
me saying, "Oh, she's the poor one."
Yeah.
Like ha ha ha. But like actually, she's like, I don't have to be poor.
But,
I can
yeah,
get a job.
It's
and
this
it's like,
moment
whoa.
like I don't have to let all the negative things in my life drag me down. I can be a positive force in my own life. And I'm like, oh, this is great. She's gonna like be the most positive person going forward. And then I feel like she
It seems a little inconsequential, doesn't it?
Yes, because that happens pretty early.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the rest of the book, she still kind of has that like almost fatalistic attitude where she is trying. It's so bizarre because it's hard to explain how I feel about this because technically she does keep trying, but it's like at every single pushback, she'll kind of give up for like a little bit, but then realize that she shouldn't have. It's like weird. Does that make sense? Am I like explaining it?
No, that makes
Do you
total
feel
Wait,
like-
can you elaborate on that for me? Like, I don't know that I understand.
She'll like, I'm trying to think of specific examples, but unfortunately I'm like blanking, but
That's
she'll
okay.
like talk to Gretchen
Mm-hmm.
and get like the cold shoulder. And then she'll be like, fine then, don't talk to me, Gretchen. And then she'll leave.
You're
And then
right.
she'll be like, oh,
I should start
shouldn't have
caring
done
about
that.
her.
Maybe I
Yeah.
should help
She's
her
my
out.
best friend. She's literally my favorite person in the whole world. I shouldn't have done that. And she'll go back and talk to her and then like get, again, minimal pushback. She's like, dude, Gretchen hates me. I hate Gretchen. And then she does it like 3 times. And it's like, dude.
There's okay.
Do you remember the trash can scene? You're supposed to like be positive
Yeah,
now.
the trash can thing. That was the whole point.
Yeah.
You know, in defense, I feel like that doesn't have to be that alienating 100% of the time. I think that it's not completely fabricated for like teenage women friendships to be like, she's mad at me, I hate her. You know, like for that to happen.
That's what I
Happening
was-
multiple times.
Yes.
Wild.
That's what I was saying earlier where it's like, you can always throw out the like,
Yes,
oh, they're
and
teenagers.
that's like fine.
Yeah.
I don't think like, you know, I don't necessarily think it's bad, but like I also completely see what you're saying that
Yeah.
she does do that in the face of pretty much every adversity. And it asks the question, I don't know if you have the notes about this, in terms of Abby's characterization and her character growth throughout the story, is the trash can monologue essential to her evolution?
It could have been cut.
It's just-
honestly, it
Well,
might
it's
have-
just-
Removed.
why
A
does
lot
it
of this
happen
book
then?
could have been taken out,
Whoa.
and I wouldn't have cared.
when I was like
Hot
listening
take.
to it,
What's
it
your
felt like there
favorite
was
scene
this
to get rid of?
So many.
Jesus.
I think
We
one of
can
my
cut
notes
this.
was like,
Just keep saying we can cut
Hey.
this.
I'll take the heat, but like, one of the things I wrote in defense of the movie was that it cut out all the unimportant bits.
No, wait, I mean, it's true. Like the movie does get down to business.
And like a lot of stuff I do miss, like the gritty stuff, the stuff that gives these characters like something for you to latch onto, that is removed and it sucks. But yeah, it's a lot. Like I said, the book kind of drags on and on for me.
I said the exact same thing. I wish it was more gritty. I said gritty, like exactly the same word. Like that. That's what was missing for me.
You can look at it, another 80s nostalgic movie that has children characters and does not shy away from
No.
the gore, the hard topics
But-
at all.
But that is also about audience, right? Because like the audience for it is different than the audience for My Best Friend's Exorcism.
You think so? I feel like that's also could be a My Baby's First horror movie. But
You
maybe
think it
I
can
watched.
be My Baby's First
I
Horror
feel
Movie?
like here I feel like maybe you see how you feel about this. I feel like the audience for the It movies, the most recent one,
Mhm.
could be the exact same audience for the book of this. I feel like you could hit the same
Mhm.
overlap,
Yeah.
but the movie decided to go way younger. And I don't know. But then again, I haven't read the It book, so maybe I'm like, not the comparison doesn't completely work. But I feel like the movie maybe tones down some of the crazier stuff
Oh yeah.
from the book.
Speaking of crazier stuff,
100%.
that's a great transition for me because this is one thing that I found ineffective. The elimination of the murder of Good Dog Max.
Oh, yeah.
no!
Yeah.
I loved. I don't want to say I loved that in the book.
Yeah, I
but
love when dogs die.
no, but that freaked me out when I read it.
That
like,
was terrifying.
yeah, like you were like, whoa, and like you know, especially because at the very end of the book, I think when Gretchen is reflecting on it, she says that thing where she's like, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
honestly, the thing that still gets me is killing my dog, and it's like, yeah, it should, and it freaked me out as a reader, and that's completely gone from the movie.
Yeah. They don't even have a dog, right? There's not
No,
even-
they don't have a dog.
No.
The other Margaret has a dog.
Margaret has a dog, and I was so glad they kept that dog scene in there. That
Yeah,
was
that's true.
crazy. I was like,
Wild.
there better be a dog grabbing this worm, and then he showed up, and I was very happy.
Yay! I
See?
thought that scene was very short. The worm scene to me. In the book, I thought it was longer. I
It
don't know
is
if that
longer
was
in
just
the
me.
Yeah. I
I
also
was-
like that scene in the book. a
Me
lot.
too.
It was maybe the most effective horror scene, I think, in my opinion, in the book. For
And
me.
see, and this is where we get into the whole like teen girl adolescence thing because it's like Margaret's insecurity is her weight, and so we get this exaggerated, horrifying scene
yeah.
of this girl who's trying everything she can do to lose weight. And so at first you're thinking like, oh, it's this kind of like metaphor for the teen girl experience. But it still feels like removed a little bit, at least for me.
Because, like, in that section, they have, like, it shows how her food count dwindles.
Yeah.
Oh, they keep doing the
throughout.
repetitive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And her part in the movie is very much shorter than
Mhm.
that, I feel like.
Yeah, and again, like, Margaret was one of my favorite characters in the book, and her whole plot line I thought was one of the better ones. So, it's yet another moment where I was like, I'm not going to say this is bad, but it is not how I envisioned it as an audience member for how it was executed.
Yeah, she like drank the milkshake and then all of a sudden was super skinny in the next scene.
Right.
Like it didn't show that progression at all.
Also, I think in the book she's just described as like way worse than she is in the movie. Like I feel like in the movie you would have had to do like CG. In the book she's like described as literally just being bones
Yeah.
and then just having like a giant pregnant stomach full
Right.
of worms. And it's so nasty
I was like
in the
driving
book.
when I was hearing that scene, and I was like, this is disgusting.
Yeah. I think in the movie she just like they like put makeup on her eyes so she looks a
Yeah,
little
she looks
skinny.
very tired and she looks thinner. But like, in the book, it's like you'd think it was gonna be gross.
I think the scene even starts where she's like, "Oh, there's nobody in this room," and she's under the covers.
Yeah.
She can't even see. You didn't even notice that the covers are like lifted.
Yeah.
How
Because she
did you
has 30
guys
tapeworms.
how did you guys feel about Andres
Yes.
being shown at the end of the movie?
I'm so glad you asked. Not another moment of not how I envisioned it. Where to me, well, first of all, I didn't think we would ever physically see him
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
Because we don't in the book, right? We don't see
We
him at
don't
all.
see him, no.
And so,
Just portrayed as an owl.
You kind of see him.
which I think is a lot scarier.
Really?
It's during the Exorcism. It's not a full description. During the Exorcism, I
Oh,
believe she
you mean
gets
when
like a
the-
vision of
yes.
like hell.
Yes.
She gets like a full vision. She's
she
like
goes to
in
hell. She sees a dude like on fire, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like still vague. You don't get to see a full description of this guy, but like she like sees him, and that's like the thing that
Yeah.
like stops. She like quits the exorcism at that point. It's like the second time.
I
she
actually
quits.
don't completely.
She
The
quits.
second time she quits the exorcism.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I forgot that she
Which,
quits.
like, okay, and so is Abby's fatal flaw as a character her like greatest weakness, that she can't commit to the bit?
she just needs to commit.
No, but like
to the bit.
but like, is that actually like what her issue is? Because that explains what you're talking about like she never commits to the bit ever. When does she ever actually commit to the bit?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Like, is that meant to be the weakness, or is
that
it not
intentional
meant?
that
Yes,
she is
like,
that way?
Are we supposed to be reading into it to see that as weakness, or or is it just like a failure of characterization?
I mean, either way, as a reader, it's frustrating.
It is.
Yeah.
True.
It was frustrating to the point that I could not tell if it was intentional,
Mm-hmm.
which I think might still be like a failure on the part of the author. But you might be right. It might be like intentional that she just does this all the time.
I only say that just because it comes up so much.
Yeah. I don't know. It could be that is intentional, or that you were just supposed to have multiple, like the intention was to give you multiple like dips and, what are the peaks and valleys of like tension to be like, oh, she's going to do it. And then, oh, she doesn't. Oh my God.
So frustrating.
Yeah, but it was not effective for me.
Sorry, I just remembered something. Christian's mom in the movie,
What was that?
completely not in the book.
Oh,
What
yeah.
was that?
Oh.
Whoa.
That's
Like,
the reason he leaves in the movies, because he sees his mom. But
Yes, I forgot about that.
huh?
Yeah, and it's
Why?
like it's such a, and at first when he was talking, but this is the other thing too, is like with the Lemon Brothers, I first of all thought of them all as like ripped and giant and like comically so.
Yes.
Some of them were in the movie. But I
Not Zac Efron, though.
no. But there's like this, there's sort of this like Southern himbo, like my daddy said that blah, 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 blah about them that is not in the movie because they introduced this mom character. And so as a whole, they are like a different unit because all of their trauma isn't coming from masculinity. It's coming from their mom dying in a car accident, right? It's like, it's just yet another where I'm like, that is a strong creative decision. Why?
And I think in the book, the reason he leaves is because he starts realizing he's going too far.
Right. He's like,
'Cause
oh,
he
I
has
just
to
tried to kill
prove-
that
yeah,
girl.
he has to prove that he can do this like
Yeah.
his dad does. And
Yes,
like,
it's
he's
all
not-
about like I can't disappoint my dad.
Yes,
yeah.
Mhm.
And then he goes like way too far, and
And then he's like,
realizes-
"Whoa, this is a child."
Yeah.
And I just tried to kill her.
Yeah.
Basically.
which that also happens in the movie, but then they just introduce the mom thing.
The mom and they're like,
Yeah. Because in the book, he just leaves. He goes, oh my God, I almost killed this girl. He's like, and then he makes up some excuse like, I'm going to go find my dad. He'll know what to do. And he leaves. He never comes back.
I admired the character of Christian Lemon a lot more in the book because I felt bad for him. And I felt like, you know, you feel a lot more about what's going on with him. And in the movie, it's not that it's not so. It's that he's so much more of comic relief.
Yeah.
He seems to be the butt of the joke most of the time. They're having that conversation in the mall where he's like, I love yogurt. And it's and you're like, this is not in the book, right? I'm pretty sure it's not in the book.
They're eating a corn dog in the book.
Right. It's different.
He stands corn dogs. It's like a whole thing.
He loves corn dogs. And then in the movie, he's like, I love yogurt.
He said it just like that.
They do keep in, I noticed this in the movie, they keep in that he eats a cold chicken breast in the middle of the Exorcist. I don't know why they decided to keep that detail in. But they
protein.
Did. Yeah.
Gotta get that protein.
Yeah, it's like a protein load. He eats just a chicken breast out of a bag. He just eats it.
Ew.
But yeah, that's my commentary on the Lemon Brothers is that, like, to me in the book, again, they were a lot more like humanized, I guess.
Very much so, yeah.
The Lemon Brothers saved both the book and the movie for me.
Really? But in different ways, I imagine, because
ways.
because it's very different.
I was excited at the prospect of this bodybuilder being an exorcist.
Yeah.
I was like, that's cool, neat idea. I want more of that. And
that's funny.
He went away for a bit, and I was like, dang, I hope he comes back. And then he did come back.
Yes.
And so for me, I was like, that's something different that we haven't seen before. It's this bodybuilder guy as an exorcist. And yeah, like you said, in the movie, he's a comic relief, which I think gave the movie a little bit of humor, which was much appreciated.
It was good for the tone.
I think his stuff is the only humor that like lands in the movie for me.
Yeah.
Some of it doesn't, but of the humor in the movie, I think his stuff is the only time
Which
it like
isn't
lands.
a lot.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
In the book, phone calls are like a big deal. Like, Abby and Gretchen constantly calling each other. Abby like calls this number thinking it's Gretchen's boyfriend or something, but then she talks to the actual Gretchen. Like, that's her form of communication, and that's completely removed from the movie. The boyfriend is removed, and the fact that she uses a phone to contact actual Gretchen that's stuck
honestly,
in hell or wherever.
I feel like not a bad thing to cut. It kind of doesn't amount to anything in the book.
Oh, really?
Think so?
Does it?
It's kind of a bold take.
I mean, that's kind of true in the sense that, like...
Okay, hold on. Let me clarify that. The fact that they call each other all the time is a good detail. I feel like the 2 times that they talk when she's in the ghost zone, when she's in the Danny Phantom ghost zone, I feel like
that's canon.
I feel like those 2 scenes don't really add anything from what I remember. What does she even say in the first one? Other than just
she
finding
warns.
out?
Well, she confirms what Abby thought. I think she's like, "That is not me."
Yes.
Which we already knew.
But then Abby doesn't do anything with that info.
Yes.
So you're right. It is unimportant because Abby doesn't use her brain.
Yeah.
I did think it was effective though. Like, what I liked was the moment when she calls the boyfriend, and then it isn't the boyfriend.
Yeah.
Not anything that's discussed. I'm not going to defend that, but I am going to defend that when I was listening to that, I kind of knew that was going to be the case. You know, you kind of know. You're like, oh, okay, like that boyfriend does not exist or whatever.
Yeah.
But like when it actually happens, you're like, wait.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting the twist to be that she's in the ghost zone and she calls her. That wasn't what I knew the boyfriend wasn't real. That she wasn't talking to her boyfriend. But I didn't know what the actual thing was.
What? Yeah, exactly.
It's a cool little moment, but I feel like cutting it from the movie probably didn't change that.
That was a good creative decision on the film team part.
They got one.
Oh, God.
God damn.
I don't think we really answered the question about seeing the demon at the end.
All I
go back to
know
that.
is that, I felt it was not important to see him. And when we did see him, he was laughable.
I thought he was underwhelming.
He's a little Dobby from Harry Potter.
He was like Dobby.
Yeah. He's a little guy.
The owls were so much freakier to me.
In the book?
Yes. And like just envisioning like when I was reading it, like what the demon was gonna look like and the whole owl symbolism. It's interesting because like I'm pro owl. Like put it on the record.
Okay.
I'm pro owl.
Hot take. Whoa.
No, I think that they're like beautiful animals.
Quick question,
like,
pro or con?
Yeah, like what do you
owl?
think about
Pro?
owls?
Pro owl.
Okay.
Pro owl.
What are you?
I'm pro owl.
Okay.
I'm definitely pro owl.
Audience, are you pro owl?
Disembodied cough over there in the studio. Thumbs up, thumbs down for owls.
Whoa.
What? Thumbs down? Oh,
wait,
my.
Okay, so it is a hot take. So I'm pro owl. Actually, one time an owl flew down my chimney when I was in 3rd grade.
God.
Yeah, and so I took a bunch of pictures of it and I took it to class the next day.
Ew.
Well, we got it out.
That's so creepy.
The point is, and it was like a barn owl too, so it had like a creepy face. Point is, I think that they're like majestic creatures. Usually they symbolize like wisdom. And I thought that that was a very like universal symbol for a demon, like this like bird that has this kind of, I don't want to say stigma, but like reputation, I guess, for being powerful in certain ways. It's a predator, right? It eats mice and things like that. I was like, that's cool. So when we actually saw the demon at the end of the movie, I was like,
how'd they get from A to B?
Yeah,
exactly,
just a
because
little
I
goblin
had this
guy.
kind of like powerful, cunning thing in my mind with like wings and like, you know, something like that. And then when we got the actual description, like you were talking about, when they actually go to hell, and then to see how the creators behind the film envisioned it, I was surprised.
Yeah, they gave him a cleft lip, which was interesting.
They get what?
His lip.
Wait, like in the movie?
Yeah.
I didn't even notice. Why?
I made a note of it because it was noticeable.
Because you were
for
like,
me.
what?
Yeah, I'm like,
To be
what's,
honest, I didn't notice it.
why did the creative directors
You didn't notice it?
No.
choose
No.
that? Why did
This
they
is
do
what I'm
that?
saying. It's like, I'm sure that they had reasons, but like, I don't understand based on reading the source material. Like,
Where
'cause-
they
well,
got
also,
that
well,
from.
Grady was an executive producer on the film.
He was.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
He was?
He was. So this is not like, yeah, no, there's no way that like they released this movie and he was like, I hate it. Like his name is like one of the first ones in the credits.
Ooh.
I don't know if that
Interesting.
adds a little more dimension to the conversation, but
Kind
It
of.
adds something.
in terms of the creative decisions they made, that's not, I don't think they weren't approved by the author.
Huh.
So why?
Also, can I just bring it up? That's a great point. Let me just bring up something that was bothering me when we watched the movie.
Mhm.
She kills a demon from hell with fire.
She blood torches him, right?
Yeah. she
Go home.
she drinks like she like does a circus trick. She like drinks like tequila or something, and then just like
She drinks tequila?
I don't know. It's like vodka or something. She has like an alcohol bottle she finds, and she just goes,
Oh, it's the wine coolers, isn't it?
"Oh, is that what it is?"
Wait, I don't
They
know.
you
mentioned
might-
the like flavored wine coolers.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
like,
several
this is
times.
rape juice.
Did they mention it in the movie at all? That's in the
don't-
book.
No, they do because when Gretchen gets up and pees in front of the classroom, that's what they're talking about.
Oh, okay, you're right.
Remember
yeah,
when that happens?
I
That's
do
not in the
remember
book.
that. I completely
I
forgot
wish I
about it
didn't,
until just
but
now. Yep, that
thanks
happened.
What
to
and
that.
you know, this I'm jumping around, I know, but like when we're talking about the whole like, is the whole thing a metaphor for rape? That like part of it, because the hand thing doesn't start for Gretchen until further in the story in the film. That also confused me why rape was such a immediate conclusion for Abby. Because in the book, she's crying, she's feeling hands all over her, and you're immediately like, oh, she was assaulted. In the movie, Abby assumes she's raped before Gretchen feels any hands on her.
She never feels hands on her.
No, she does one time.
Does
in,
she?
in the classroom, she's like, Wallace, stop.
Oh, you're right. She
and
does
that's when she goes up to the
once.
front of the classroom
They
and
do
she
the bit
pees.
once,
Yeah.
Because in the book, it's happening like all the time.
It's constant.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
and that's why, and one of the reasons why as a reader you're like, oh, she must have experienced assault. That makes sense. And you can come to the same conclusion as Abby, but in the movie, Abby's conclusion feels extremely
How did she
far-fetched.
get to that conclusion? I can't remember in the movie.
I think it's the same thing in the book where she's like, I read in the magazines, like these are the signs. But it's a little different because in the book there's also a bunch of other signs,
Yeah.
right?
I am trying to remember how she comes to the conclusion in the movie. Doesn't she? Because the same stuff happens, right? Where she goes back to the house and she sees the bottle. Am I crazy?
Yes, she finds the bottles
The wine
that
coolers are
Wally
still there.
Wallace had.
Yeah. And that's how she comes up with the idea that Wallace did it.
Yeah.
I think is the same.
Oh, and like his band name is graffitied.
that's in
in
the
there.
book,
Right.
right? And is that still in the movie? I honestly don't remember.
I don't,
don't
think,
think
so.
so, no.
Okay.
Never mentioned that.
No.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Honestly, the movie's a bit of a blur to me. I'm gonna be real with you. The movie happened. I got up blanking on the movie.
Oh, can I talk about the ending for a second of the movie?
Sure.
Two things. My first point that I wrote down. Gretchen is moving away from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And it, to me, eliminated the stakes because we already know she's moving. So why do we care? When Abby is forced to move because of the exorcism, basically, like it's a little after, I think, but like because of that, everything seems consequential. And in the movie, in the first scene, Gretchen talks about moving like at the end of the year. And I, yet again, asked myself, why? Because I thought that was an interesting to see. It kind of wraps it all up neatly with a bow where it's like, oh, well, she was moving anyway. But then it's like, well, then why did the story matter if she was going to do that? And then also they had text endings for everybody.
Yeah, they did the funny
That
like
was so crazy.
and here's what happened with this character for like every character. And I was like, oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
they did
choice.
do that.
I guess because in the
book it takes us through the end of their lives.
Yes, yeah. The book they just fast forward and then do like a whole spiel about like, oh, life moves on and all that stuff.
And
so
then
I guess that
Abby's
was
on her
their,
deathbed and her daughter isn't there, but Gretchen is. And
that was their rendition of that, doing the
must
like
have been, yeah. It's the answer
end
to that.
credits bit.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, to touch on like them splitting apart and moving,
Mm-hmm.
that also adds to like, that's nerve-wracking as like coming from Abby's perspective. Everybody thinks she did this crazy thing that hurt Gretchen, but in reality she was helping Gretchen, and Gretchen knows that.
Mm-hmm.
So like when they do finally get a reconnect, it's like very heartfelt.
Yeah.
And everything.
It's effective.
Yeah. And that's totally erased from the movie.
Well, yeah, it's because of the tension. So, but the only thing I can think about that is that maybe they were trying to increase the stakes by it being like, this is the end of Abby and Gretchen's friendship, or it's like, it's looming. And so it's really important to Abby that she fixes all their issues or whatever. You know what I mean? Like maybe that was the intention behind it. Other than that, I'm not sure why they would introduce the ending of the movie before the plot.
I feel like there's maybe something they couldn't do. I'm thinking about it now in the movie, because in the movie, correct me if I'm wrong, Gretchen is moving, right?
Gretchen is moving, yes.
Gretchen is moving. But then there's this weird like subplot they kind of introduce and don't do anything really with until where the reason she gets possessed is because Abby like runs away and leaves her, right? In the house. In the movie, like Abby's like running away from the spooky noises and she leaves Gretchen behind, and then that's why she gets possessed. And then that kind of comes up later where like the demon tries to say something like, oh, you left her, it's your fault.
Right.
It feels like there could have been something there, but where like if Abby was the one who was moving at the beginning of the movie, to like a metaphorical like, oh, this you're separating, you're leaving her.
Yes.
But they don't. Gretchen is moving.
Right.
It's not even so why is
Gretchen
she moving?
is the one moving. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not even like a important thing to the changes they made in the movie.
Yeah. Speaking of lines and things like that seem impactful, but one of my favorite lines in the book, or it's not like favorite, but one of the lines that struck me in the book is when this goes back to the whole eliminating the queer relationship in the questionable queer relationship in the forefront of the story, is when Gretchen, when possessed, is like, you really are gay for me, aren't you? And for me, that was like a Mean Girls moment. It was like when she's like, why are you so obsessed with me?
It was Jennifer's body too.
It was very Jennifer's body. Like, you really are gay and like all this stuff. And then it's like, obviously they completely eliminate that as well. But I think that it's a shame that they eliminated that line. Because if nothing else, even if you did completely eliminate it, I think that it would have harkened back to other films like we just talked about that have similar conflicts at the forefront. And then it might have contributed a little bit more to its own genre. Or not contributed, but been more clearly a player in its own genre. Whereas by moving that whole thing out of the limelight,
like a queer audience could have grasped onto that storyline.
They could have picked up on those
more
things.
than Glee's one scene.
So true.
Yeah.
I feel like the problem I have with all the changes the movie makes, it feels like basically all of them, or maybe we mentioned a few that seem like they kind of work, but it feels like almost all the choices made to change stuff from the book is not in service of like a better adaptation, but like a shorter one. They just are like, they're just like, eh. And then they're just, and then here's the main beats, and then we're done.
Well, it's like, and I'm going back to last week's episode. Sorry. 2 weeks ago's episode.
2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to 2 weeks ago's episode.
That was ages ago.
In 2 weeks ago's episode about Misery, it's a similar thing where I would say that they really pull out the pieces that are most visually exciting, and it is a very straightforward story. That was effective for Misery because it's so, it's highly visual horror situations. In this, because so much of it is about the socio-political relationships between girls.
Yeah, big brain over here.
We're a highly educated podcast.
That's not even the right word.
I don't know what you were saying. That sounded right.
That sounded dope.
Thank you. No, I'm trying to say, like, because it's all about the social dynamics between teen girls. When you really boil down the story, it feels quick, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's not these highly visual scenes. It's moving quickly through these like moments with these girls.
Yeah.
instead of, because I imagine all films struggle with trying to boil down a long, complicated story into a straightforward visual narrative. But obviously, it's a lot easier for certain narratives than others.
Agreed.
That's
great.
That's
Well
the
said.
pod.
Spot to live
Well
to
said.
end off on.
Yeah.
I think we all know, but which did you prefer, the book or the movie?
The book for me personally.
I did prefer the book. Yes.
Okay. I also preferred the book, but I didn't like the book.
That's
so,
2 for 2
Yeah.
of
Mm.
books over movies, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah. No, wait, no.
Wait,
last
you
week I
liked
said
Misery.
movie last week.
You liked Misery.
Yeah,
the
you
I
liked
keep
movie.
saying
Movie.
last week. Two
Good.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
Last time I said movie.
All right, y'all. This versus that. Are you ready?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh shit. I forgot about the segment. Who's going first? Oh no! What is the question? I'll go
I
first.
think I saw this one. You are going first.
Okay.
This is the one you opened? Chris Brown versus R. Kelly.
No.
There's no shot. That's the first question.
No.
Are you serious?
No.
I have to answer.
Banned. No.
Did you write that?
I did write it.
Chris Brown versus R. Kelly? Oh
No.
man, what
I
a
know
tough
you
one.
probably have an answer.
Jesus Christ. Anyways, R. Kelly.
I didn't expect an actual answer.
No.
Oh, whoops.
Nope. Wait.
Let's not dive into that.
No.
Dude,
no.
Ignition Remix is one of the best songs ever. Are you serious?
I feel like based on how the question is phrased, you aren't really asking about their music.
Why, did
just
they do
threw it
something
out there.
else? We're talking about R. Kelly, the musical artist, correct?
Correct.
Chris Brown,
Yes.
the great dancer? I must
No,
have
I
missed
wasn't-
something.
I just like want
Expecting
that
anything.
soundbite.
That'll be at the beginning of the
Yeah.
I'm stealing the credit. I have to acknowledge credit where I got that bit from. You ever seen the bit of this guy on, he was partners with Norm Macdonald, comedian, on Conan's podcast?
Mhm.
This is like way off topic. And Conan mentions Jeffrey Epstein, and he goes, Jeffrey Epstein, the New York financier? Did something happen with him recently? It's hilarious. Sorry, I stole that bit.
amazing.
It's a stolen bit. All right.
Right, for real.
Actually, Tessa, I think you should answer that one.
I'm not familiar with any of these artists personally.
Yeah. Me too.
They're kind of underground. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, they certainly are
What
buried now.
provoked you to ask this on this episode? They are not involved in my best friend's exorcism.
Yeah, they are.
Yes,
Did
they
you forget
are
the
at the
beginning of the
beginning.
podcast?
No, wait, what?
The director of the movie.
Oh, the director.
I had a reason.
Sorry, I was thinking
had
of
a
the
reason.
story. Sorry,
I'm not
sue me for paying
crazy.
attention
You
to the
forgot.
story. I did forget about Kim Kardashian's first husband, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Anyway, for real.
Mm-hmm.
This versus that. E.T. versus roller skating.
Roller skating. I actually do that one.
Same.
Oh, E.T.
We should roller skate.
We should.
I can't
Next
roller
episode, we're roller skating, and we're teaching Michael how.
skate. Oh, God.
We're roller skating at 2 Dutch Bros.
Man, you're referencing a bit we had.
I
what
was going to
weeks
say,
ago?
that was weeks ago.
That was so long ago. I forgot about the Dutch Brothers a bit.
So you chose E.T.
I'm choosing E.T. I can't roller
Why?
skate. Because E.T. is a cool movie and I can't roller skate. It's pretty simple.
Okay. You know, E.T. is a cool movie. I
Yeah.
don't like how emphasized it is in the book.
No,
because
it's weird.
It kind of turned me off of E.T. a little bit.
Oh, really?
Is that a hot take? I just felt like they
No,
talked
I
about
mean-
it so much.
I talk about it a lot.
I mean,
Can
I like E.T.
Then it never came up again.
Can I
ever.
mention my...
Well, no, she's like, I release you with the power of E.T.
So I thought that was just in. That wasn't in the movie.
No, E.T.
No.
is not in the movie at all.
Okay.
They were
I
like,
thought
we do not like that.
That's what I remembered about her exercising her was
She's
the
like-
E.T. line. But
yeah.
for some reason, I thought that was in the movie.
Speaking of E.T., can I bring up my one note that I have?
So
So I guess
E.T.?
this is now, we're 2 episodes deep in this podcast, and this is, I guess, my running bit. We're pulling up a quote that I wrote down because it made me laugh as I was listening to the book.
Yeah.
Got it.
Because I listen to these books at work, so that I'm like listening and doing other stuff.
Mhm.
So when a little quote pops up that makes me laugh, I like to write it down. This is in reference to Abby's birthday party in the very beginning. She's describing how much ET stuff is at her party. It's everywhere. And she says, it looked like ET exploded all over the walls. And so there you go. That's my
Wow.
Michael's quote of the episode. Here we go.
It physically pained me when she ripped apart the E.T. poster.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, how dare you do that?
Wow.
I just
You
can't
big
imagine.
ET fan?
Big
No,
E.T.
but I
fan.
can't imagine destroying one of my movie posters, especially something that old.
Yeah.
I mean, to her it wasn't old, but it could have been
It
or
was still pretty
something.
old. She got it when she was like a kid, and then she's a junior in high school.
Question
Junior,
mark?
I think.
I don't know. All right.
No, sophomore. They're 15, I think.
You're right. They are sophomores.
Yeah.
Next one. Falling in a dunk tank versus being your friend's slave for a day.
See, insane question yet again. Like, why are we being problematic?
It's insane.
It's a plot point.
It's like she's comparing the two
Yeah.
exact plot points and how they're different. And
This
Yeah.
is messy. Well, I'm gonna go with dunk tank because I would like to go swimming.
In ice cold water.
I'm cool with it.
Okay.
yeah, dunk
I
tank
take
just
cold
seems kind of
showers.
fun, honestly. Being in a
Really?
dunk tank, yeah, I think it would be
Yeah.
kind of cool.
I think it could be okay. That's to say that I I'm fine with the cold water. I'm fine with being dunked.
Okay.
I'm not fine with whatever the other half of that question is. I'm not fine at all with that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I would choose dunk tank as well.
Okay, good. I'm glad we're all on the same page.
All right. Tapeworm diet shake versus a jug of holy water.
Wait. Is the jug of holy water in the Exorcism? He like makes her
Yes,
drink
like
it?
he like is trying to get it all down.
He also makes her drink vinegar, if I recall.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not possessed, so I'm not really that worried about
Yeah,
holy
water, I think, is just water.
Isn't that just water?
But if you're just chugging it, you don't
I
get
chug
breaks.
water all the time.
Really?
Watch me.
Damn.
Do it
Okay.
right now. Right now,
Really?
damn it.
For our viewers at home. Actually, wait, no, I don't want to do it. I'm scared.
You're good.
You don't have
Please
to do it.
don't. I don't want you choking.
I just don't have that much water in my water bottle, so I don't think I could do that effectively. But I will off camera.
Okay, cool. Looking forward to
This is our
it.
Patreon exclusive. Sam chugs a bottle of water.
It'll be like 20 ounces, though. It'll be like a lot.
Can you bless it, Michael?
Yeah, of course. I got my little cross right here.
Got it.
So holy water.
Thoughts.
Yeah, you know. I think I'm gonna go with the holy water, Tessa.
I-
Real tough one, real thinker.
Well, it's like you're saying it's a lot of tapeworms, right? It's not one
Yeah.
tapeworm.
It's
Yeah.
like you drink one shake, and I think they put like a bunch of eggs in it.
Yeah, well, then obviously not. If it was one tapeworm,
Really? You
I actually don't know that. Sorry, if that's like offensive. I don't know the implications of a tapeworm. Like, is that
Offensive to who? Tapeworms? Who are
no?
you
But, like,
offending?
do people like actually like? Do people
maybe
actually
it was,
like people do that, right?
maybe it was like a diet trend at one
I
point.
think it is like a real thing that people do, like getting a tapeworm.
I think you can offend them.
Yeah, I'm cool.
they're-
Don't do
if they're
that. If anybody out
purposely
there is struggling with an
consuming
eating disorder, do
tapeworm.
not get a tapeworm.
Yeah, no, don't do it.
But like, well, no, wait, no. I was gonna be like, but for me, my bad. No, I'm not gonna get a tapeworm. No, I would do holy water for sure.
Yeah.
But it's also a lot worse if it's multiple tapeworms.
We at Dreadful Digest would like to formally apologize to the tapeworm community. We meant no offense by Sam's comments. Sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts before we end this episode?
I don't think so.
I think I'm all right. I think we got through a good amount of
Yeah.
opinions and stuff. Very
I mean, we
opinionated.
want to hear from you? Question mark to our audience.
About
Like,
what?
would you like a
about what?
tapeworm? No, like what? Like I don't know if they've read it and like what they think, and if they've compared both, or if they watched just the movie or something. Maybe. I
Oh,
don't
with
know.
the audience?
Yeah, like
Thanks.
the audience.
Okay, ask the
Oh, I thought you
audience.
meant you
Audience?
as in Tessa.
Yeah, I thought
Oh
That's
no,
what you
no,
meant.
sorry, no. Hi, audience. To our viewers at home, that's what I'm calling you. Let us know if you watched it and what you think. I would like to know if you liked it, what you preferred.
Feel free to comment on our social media pages
Yeah.
at Dreadful Digest Pod
Whoop whoop.
on Instagram and TikTok. And that's where you can keep updated with all of our fun stuff. The next episode is going to be The Invisible Man. So make sure to watch the movies, read the book, whatever you feel like. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Make
See
sure
ya.
it's the Invisible Man.
Not
but-
not Invisible Man.
Yeah. All right.
Wonderful
The-
book, but not what we're reading.
Anyway, thanks for listening, everyone.
See you next time. Bye. I love you. I love you.